This is one topic that, I really love talking about. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Mm. I'm just as excited as you because yes, like you said, it is something that resonates. I mean, looking at a lot of us, I mean myself included, growing up, that's communication with with our parents. I mean, it was there, but man, it was one of the toughest things for a
It was
lot
more like,
of
sit down, keep quiet, don't do this.
you know for for individuals of our generation at least, it was something that seemed like to have conversations or communicate with parents, tough stuff. But
Yeah.
anyways, we know that the rapid evolution of communication methods is a major factor in parents-child disconnect. Now, while parents grew up in a time where face-to-face interaction was a primary mode of communication. I mean, way back then.
Yeah.
Children today, they're actually more accustomed to digital interactions through social media, texting, and instant messaging as well. Now, studies have shown that over 65% of teenagers in developed countries, including Nigeria, communicate frequently with friends through texting or
Texting.
social media than in person. Now, for parents, this can actually feel impersonal and distance. But for their children, it's the norm. It's
That's
their
the
regular.
norm. Yeah.
Exactly. That definitely is a regular thing for them. And you just begin to wonder, how exactly can this be changed, and so on and so forth. But I need to begin here with you, Othman. And I just want, do you think parents underestimate the influence of social media on how their children communicate, especially in more personal matters?
Yeah, I think a lot of parents underestimate that because so what they think that social media, and when I say parents, I'm talking of like older generation parents, right? They think that
Mhm.
social media is just play, right? But meanwhile, what they don't realize is that for these children, social media is like everything. How we used to have like family gatherings, and that's why, for example, you be in a family gathering, but the child will be on their phone, you know, texting because they'd rather be, you know, checking out what's happening on social media than being with the people there. And then instead of like trying to connect with the child, a lot of parents just kind of say, "Hey, what are you doing with that phone? Drop that phone." That kind
Mm.
of thing. So they underestimate the influence of social media because social media plays a great role. And not even just on children, even on us adults, parents too, as well. You find that, I mean, how many parents are always forwarding funny WhatsApp messages, you know, don't bath under the moonlight with salt or something like that. To them, that's their social media. But because they are confined to just one type of social media, the distraction is little for them. But for these children that have TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram,
Mm.
different kind of things. So yeah, there's a lot of stimulation and that. And so yeah, the effect of social media is tremendous on how children perceive. And because they are always connected to that world, it shapes what they believe about the world, right? The kind of music they listen to, the kind of people they look up to, they look up to. And that's why if you look at it now, there's a trend of a lot of people going into skits. Why
Mm.
are people going into skits? Because the people they see, these are people that I knew when this guy started, all of a sudden he's a millionaire. Maybe me too. I'll drop out of school and go and start doing skit, that kind of thing. So it really does
Exactly.
it shapes the trajectory of these children.
Okay, interesting thoughts there. Now, like you mentioned, kids these days they have their social messaging apps, the TikToks, the Snapchats, and all that. Now, these platforms they encourage short, superficial interactions, which can make
Yeah,
deeper conversations seem very daunting. They don't want
difficult.
to, go beyond the surface. It's just, short messages, abbreviations, and so on and so forth. So they translate that into actual interactions away from their phones and all when
Yeah.
when you think about it. And there could also be a misinterpretation of digital language. The use of emojis, GIFs, and shorthand,
Yeah.
like I mentioned, in digital conversations, it may come across as shallow to some parents who are used to direct conversations. Talk to me, I talk to you, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So they may misinterpret their children's tone or intent, leading to misunderstandings. And the truth is, this isn't only limited to parents. I mean, even peer to peer, maybe me to someone, just a GIF or an emoji or a message read the wrong way could lead to complete misunderstanding, let alone between parent and child.
And
So
nature.
now I'm beginning to wonder, how can parents better adapt to these new forms of digital communication without feeling disconnected from their children's emotional world?
So the first step, honestly, the first step I think is to actually build trust with the children time from when the time the children are little, right? And the
Okay.
reason why is because trust is the major thing that helps in connection. Without trust, there can't be any connection. So, for
Mm.
example, if a child trusts their parent and knows that, look, this parent is coming from a place of love, right? Even if the child is being scolded, the child understands that, okay, it's coming from a place of love. Not a situation where,
Right.
you, all of a sudden, where were you all my life? Then all of a sudden, you now want to come and start dictating to me what I need to do and what I shouldn't do, right? So, first thing is to build that trust. But then, in the case where now the children have grown and all that, is to also kind of like empathy in terms of just step into their world, try to understand what their context is, because
Mm.
the world we live in now is rapid. Everything is, I was telling somebody the other day and I was like, do you know that why you see children are looking for instant gratification now is not, it's not far-fetched. Those, before you have to wait for a particular time, 4 o'clock. Now children have pay-per-view. You mean you just open Netflix, it goes, right? So they are used to rapid things. And so when they grow up and they need kind of like fast things, it's not it's a situation whereby you don't like blame them. So I think that what parents should do is that they should be able to also just look at it from the children's side, right? It's not a case of I'm right and you're wrong, right? It's to, okay, look at it
Mm.
from the child's side and say, okay, yeah, I understand. But then when you now form that connection, then you can start to correct them and say, listen, your GIFs and your emojis and all that are good in your world. But when you come into the real world in terms of corporate culture and all those kind of things, you can't use that. The only time the child would accept that change is if that trust is established. So I think the first
Right.
thing parents need to do is to establish that trust so that when they say, listen, I'm looking out for you. This is good, texting, with your friends, but you can't do that, you know. I know for a fact, even now as I'm an adult, my mom still corrects me if I maybe use shorthand or something like that. You tell me this is not the way to write. You get. And because of that, I also, like I've made a mental note that when I'm talking, I would speak in full sentences and all that. So I
Mm.
think that trust, if parents build that trust, then they can correct, mildly, and then, behavior now changes.
Right, right. I'm actually glad you mentioned that trust because it is a very, very key thing. Because, children tend to refrain from opening up to their parents because they have this fear of being judged or being misunderstood.
Yeah,
Now, a lot of them feel that their parents don't grasp the pressures that they face, such as
they
mental health
face.
issues, academic stress, peer dynamics. In fact, there was a story recently that made the rounds about, I think, an 11-year-old, was it a boy that committed suicide because he felt that he was being so pressured by his own parents, as it were. It was discussed not too long ago. That's an 11-year-old. And you begin to ask the
Yeah.
question, 11-year-old,
What pressure?
what pressure, this and that. But everybody is dealing with one thing or another. Everybody is not going to have the same perspective. We don't know what his parents were pushing him over at home on a regular basis. As a child at home, when you're constantly being pushed and compared,
Is it not your mate?
it's not your mate, does he have two heads, this and that? And then it seems like a constant push every single time. There is no, should I say, there is no positive reinforcement. It's always, you need to, you have to, and the child
Yeah,
feels overwhelmed. Add that to
yeah.
maybe being pressured at school and all that. So that is on one side. So that could lead to a lot of young people not wanting to have those conversations with their parents. Now, according to a 2022 survey by UNICEF, nearly 60% of teenagers globally said they avoid talking to their parents about mental health concerns because they believe their parents won't understand. Now, from your perspective and experience as well, man, why do you think mental health in particular is such a difficult topic for children to discuss with their parents?
Because the generation that the parents belong to is a generation of suck it up. men don't cry, that kind of thing. Like, are you the only one? So now you're having a generation that is coming that is now more aware and more woke per se. And I think that because of this awareness, there's that, okay, look, anything that is going to stress me, I don't want it. And also, see, the generation is different. In the previous generation, it was a survival kind of mindset. We need to survive. We'll do all it takes for us to survive. This new generation, things are much easier. And because things are much easier, people are more now looking more towards personal happiness. Surviving is not that difficult anymore. Think about it those days. In this early 80s, 90s, the people that had internet in their houses were the top people. Now
Right.
everybody has internet, right? The people that had generator, that's why when generators came out, first, I passed my neighbor, like small generator, like it's not everybody that has it. But now we see houses where um there's internet. Like internet is not even an issue. There's light, there's inverter, all those kind of things. So
Yeah.
they don't no longer need to survive. It's more like, look, we're looking towards thriving. And any situation that I feel that doesn't make me thrive, obviously, people are going to not want to be in that situation. It also follows to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Once shelter is
Right.
sorted, love and affection is sorted, the next thing people are thinking about is personal fulfillment. So now, because the basics are sorted, there's food, medicine, shelter, all those things are sorted. Everybody now has grown to the level where they're um thinking about being self-fulfilled. And when you're in that realm of thought, the major thing that you're going to be thinking about is, my mental health. What is important to disconnect is because the parents are of the generation where it had to do with survival. People left their villages, came to the city, had to survive to eat, had to, go through a lot of stress. But now that food is there, there's internet, there's everything. So that's why there's that disconnect. So it's a situation whereby both of them are looking at the world differently. They have a different paradigm, right? The children are more, look, I just want to be fine. I'll
Right.
give you an example.
Right.
I'm an HR person, right? She's a HR person, and she did a presentation in when Chartered Institute of Personnel Managers had a meeting. She did a presentation where she talked about the younger generation, how they don't stay in a job for long, right? I think a year after she did that presentation, I left my job, and she was looking at me. She was like, "Bro, I did this presentation. I didn't know that, like in my house." I'll have that kind of situation, right? You get that kind of thing. And for them, they were people that worked for 10, 20 years in an organization, right? I've jumped, I mean, I worked 3 years in one organization, worked 6 years in another organization. After COVID, I even said, you know what, I'm resigning, I'm done. And then I just went, and I went solo, right? So for
Right.
them, they cherished security. We don't really cherish security. We cherish more like adventure, self-fulfillment, as long as I'm able to do things that I want to do. Right. So I think that that's the disconnect. It's just a paradigm shift. I think that parents are more, the parents of before were more about survival, stay in one place. We are more of, self-fulfillment, adventure, and all those things.
Right. Interesting thoughts there. We'll take a quick break right now. When we come back in, we're going to go back to the issue of trust and how important it is in fostering parent-child communication. Keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. This is Lagos Talks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a bit. All right, quick break. We'll be back in about a minute or so.
Awesome. Okay, no worries.
So they did presentation. 1 year later, you moved.
I left now. And the company I left was Owando. And I was like, how do you leave Owando?
You must have had your reasons for that. I mean,
And
nobody would.
the company I left Owando for was a startup, Enyo. At that time, Enyo had not even started.
Oh,
They didn't even have websites.
oh wow, that was like base level, base level.
Base level. Like my father-in-law Googled Enyo. He didn't see anything. He said, "Are you sure not this car? Don't worry. We're the ones that will build the company." Right. And then 3 years after I built NU and it became the company that it is now, I left. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to start my own business in the heat of COVID. And they were like, how do you live
I
in the
mean,
heat of COVID?
on the outside, that would look like an impulsive decision.
Oh, yeah.
That would look like a very impulsive decision because, like, okay, in the heat of COVID, where things are so uncertain, you're leaving. When people are going out of jobs, you are leaving voluntarily. Come, what's going on here?
Exactly.
But hey, at the end of the day, I always tell people that just do what is best for you.
Do what is best for you.
Just do what is
Do
best
what
for
is
you
best for you.
at the end of the day. I mean, someone on the outside might not understand why.
No, they won't understand.
It might not make sense, but you are the one wearing the shoes, so you
So
know
you know
exactly
where it pinches, you know what you want, you
where.
know what you're looking for. Yeah.
Understand? But if you were me, man, I would think I'm well. I would have thought about it well. What? All right, we're heading back in.
All right, also.
Welcome back into a discussion we're having this morning on Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station on a Feel Good Friday. Yes, Feel Good Friday morning. And it's feeling good as we have been getting along on this discussion, talking about generational communication. Why kids tend to have difficulties communicating or talking with or talking to their parents. A very, very interesting one we're having this morning. My guest is Othman Abdulrasheed. He's a business leadership coach as well as a behavioral analysis consultant, and he's giving us insights into the issues here. And I'm having a great time, as it were. Hope you are as well. And you can also come through with your thoughts as well as experiences as well. We are big on hearing your experiences and things that you can relate to as well. So send your messages in on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981 0809 444 0981. The studio line remains 0201 4489 981. That's if you'd love to give us a call and share your thoughts as well. You can also call on WhatsApp if the studio line is not reachable for you if you're in diaspora, or it's more comfortable just to call on WhatsApp. You can do that as well. We're streaming live on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right. So, welcome back into the conversation. Now, before we go back to trust, because I mentioned that, now you talked about beforehand how the younger generation seem to like or seem to, prioritize their comfort and ease of doing things and all that. Now, would you consider that approach as, should I say, being lazy or not wanting to put in all the effort? Because you look at some younger people sometimes and you just ask yourself, is that the best you can actually do? You're
Yeah.
more than this, something like that. So do you think it's coming from a place of laziness? And will that actually impact them negatively when the going gets tough? Because the going usually gets tough at some point or another.
So I think that it's a negative trend that we've seen happening. And most times the it's not really the kid's fault. It's from the parents. And I'll tell you why. So there's this proverb that says difficult times make strong people. Strong people make good times make weak people. Weak people bring difficult times, right?
Mm,
In a short sense, what it's saying is that when the going gets tough, somebody in the family gets up and says, I'm gonna grind. When that person grinds and makes it, he doesn't want his children to suffer what he suffered. Thereby,
right.
he will breed weak children. Then those weak children will now bring difficult times, and then they will squander all the family wealth, right? So the reason why a lot of people now in this world are not they're not resilient, so to speak, is because they come from a place where everything is done for them. Something as simple as even washing their plates. They have like three people that wash their plates. That kind of thing. So it it
Mhm.
it it breeds a kind of laissez-faire way of doing things. Nobody wants to stress themselves and all that. So I think that But the truth is that it's not even good to generalize. Not all, young people, all teenagers that are like have amazing work ethic, even though yes, they always want to do things easier, which makes sense. You have an elevator in a building, a 10-story building, which would you rather go? Through the elevator or climb the stairs? You go through the elevator. If there are
Elevator
easier
all
ways to do things
elevator all day.
all day, all day, right? So if there are easier ways to do things, why do you want to stress yourself? But the problem is that the world we live in now is about faster, quicker, easier. The world that our parents lived in was about hard work, grit, tenacity. So something that could be done easily, no, they don't. They want you to do the manual work, right? So, and that's kind of like the disconnect. But I feel like at the end of the day, it's the underlying thought process. When people do things shortcut because they don't want to stress themselves, right? That might not be the good thing. But if somebody is doing an easier way just so that, okay, look, there's an easier way to do it, and that's why I'm doing it. So it's not from a place of mental laziness. And so going back to the parents, it's not too late. One of the ways that you can do to build that kind of resilience in your child is to actually not do everything for them,
Mm,
right? Especially if you have young children, right? And this is also telling, people that are parenting as well. If you have young children, don't do everything for them. Something as simple as wearing their shoes. Yes, it will be more expedient. So let's say you're going to school and you are running late. You just wear the shoe for them. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
right.
Instead, what you should do is that create more time. So that's what I do. I have kids, they're twins, and they're both 5 years old, right? So what I do is when I'm going out with them, I will create a 10-minute window for them to get ready.
Okay.
Because I know that it will take time. So they have to wear their shoes by themselves. They have to pack up their bags by themselves. They have to do everything by themselves. Why? Because I'm trying to foster that sense of independence in them. It's
Being
difficult at the
self-sufficient.
self-sufficient when they know that, look, I can do it. And children are naturally self-sufficient. They always want to say, I can do it. We are the ones that teach them that, no, I will do it for you. And once your parents are doing it for you, then what happens? You grow up one day and say, oh, I beg, do it for me. And then when your parents are no longer there to do it for you, you've not built that muscle, that resilience muscle to do it for yourself. So I think that's
Hmm.
kind of like,
Interesting thoughts there.
yeah, that's the idea.
And the funny thing is, I actually do agree with you on that front that children actually naturally are self-sufficient
Naturally
because
are self-sufficient.
we've all had experiences where maybe a child is trying to do something, wear a shoe, wear an outfit or something, and you try to help them and they say, "Leave me, I'll do it
Leave me,
myself."
I'll do it myself.
Like,
Yes.
they feel so affronted that, come, what is your business in this? I can do this
I
thing.
can do it,
You
yeah. But
understand?
you are not patient
So,
enough to allow them to do it.
mm, interesting perspective there. Okay, let's bring it back to trust because we talked about that. And I really want to know how exactly can that trust be fostered in that parent-child dynamic?
Relationship.
Because yeah, it's very, very critical. When children feel that they don't feel comfortable in discussing sensitive things, or if parents are overly critical or dismissive, these kids may actually shut down and avoid future conversations. So what can be done in order to foster that trust where the child can at any point in time come to that parent with anything without the fear of, my mommy will do this or my daddy will do that kind of thing. How can that trust be fostered?
So first things first, right, is connection. Is to build connection. And how do you build connection? There are three ways to build connection. First step for everybody in trying to build connection with anybody, right, is to value the person. So you, as a parent, must value your children. When you value your children, then you don't look at them as, oh, 2-year-old, somebody that doesn't have sense or doesn't know what they want and all that, right? Because the truth is that they might just be physically not big, but their mind has already developed. They know what they want. They know, even though they can't articulate it. So thing is, in trying to
Mm,
raise your children, one, you must value them. So when you value them, you don't talk down on them. You value their opinions. For example, like me, I have full-blown conversations with my kids. I'm not going to force you to do what you want to do, but we'll have a conversation, right? And so
talk
that's the
about
first thing,
it.
value people, right? Yeah, we'll talk about it. The second thing now is understand what is of value to them. What is of value to you does not necessarily mean what is of value to them, right? So we must take time out to
Okay.
start to understand what is of value to them. I'll give you an example. So I told you I have twins, a boy and a girl, right? And they are as distinct as day and night.
Okay.
Totally. One is wild and you get the other one is more calm. And I know what is of value to both of them. So the third step in building that connection is then you add value to them. So how do you add value to them? Is that when you understand those things that they value, go above and beyond to add value to them. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you, for example, you value. Okay, let me even use an example with teenagers. I was giving a talk on business for teenagers sometime back, right? And there was this
Okay.
particular boy. He wore his black hoodie, he wasn't interested in being there. Clearly, it was his parents that forced him to be there. So the guy was not even communicating with me. He shut down. And I was trying. I was able to get other children to participate, but this particular boy did not participate. I kept looking for angles. I went to anime, because I know that they value anime, right? Went into anime, talked about anime a bit. The boy did not budge. Somehow, we went into PlayStation. And then I
Mm.
I don't know, by inspiration, I just talked about there's a particular game, Ghost of Tsushima. And I know that most teenagers like it because I love it as well, right? So I talked about Ghost of Tsushima, and the guy's
Okay.
eyeballs lit up. He went from
He woke up at that point.
non-responsive, he woke up. He went from non-responsive, and he was testing me to see, am I just saying it, or like am I like a you know real Ghost of Tsushima guy? And I was telling him, how I beat this particular person, how I did that, and he joined the conversation. At the end of the day, he was more excited than even the other kid. So when you understand what is of value to them, add
Mm.
value to them, right? So you understand they like gaming. Once in a while, game with your children, right? You understand that they like sports. Do A lot of parents, one of the issues parents have is that when they are taking their children for sports, they take them and drop them.
They don't actively participate with them.
Yes, my children do taekwondo. When the taekwondo instructor comes, I join them. We do it together. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it all the time, but I mean once in a while. That way, it's a collective
Mm.
thing. Once you've established that connection, the next step is now where you now build trust. Building trust comes from integrity. Most times, parents don't show good integrity when it comes to their children. I'll give you an example. You want to go out, your children are always going to ask you, Daddy, where are you going? Daddy, where are you going? Daddy, where are you going? Right? You now tell them, okay, wait, go and wear
Mm.
your shoe. By the time the child goes to wear the shoe, you run away.
that that is classic. That is classic.
That's a classic thing. What you don't realize is that you are building a foundation that your child believes that they can't trust you. You do that as a 2-year-old, as a 3-year-old, as a 4-year-old. When they become teenagers, they're not going to trust you because they will remember that when you tell them to go this way, you will do sleight of hand.
Mm.
That's the thing. So we must be integrous. If you tell a child, don't always press your phone, you too, you must make sure that you don't always press your phone. If you tell a child, always read, are you reading? So we do
Mm.
not
Do
create
as
the
I
people
do,
we want.
not do as I
Yes, we
say.
create the people that are us. In my kids' school, they did parents teachers this thing, and I went to talk to them, and they were telling me that, oh, there's some. Do you work out with your teacher? I say yes. They were like, because there's some workouts that my kids do that the teachers know that even they can't do it, so they know that it's something that they learn from home,
Mm.
and so
Mm.
because they
Mm.
see me do it, it's easier for them to do it as well.
Hmm. Interesting. And I like that idea of do as I do, not do as I say. We're very guilty of,
Yes,
doing as I say, not doing as I do.
yes,
And
yes,
that needs
yes,
to be worked
yes,
on. Let's take
yes.
let's take a very quick break. When we come back in, we'll talk about active listening. I mean, we tend to listen, but do we listen actively? That is the
Actively,
question.
yeah.
Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Okay, we have a minute
Okay.
or thereabouts, and then we'll jump back in. I'm enjoying the vibe. Making sense. They're spitting. They're spitting. That's what I like. When my guests spit. And many of these things, parents guilty, completely guilty. You should
Yes.
be.
You should
They're
be
not reading. They're
reading. You are
pressing
you
phone.
reading? You're pressing phone. So we have to, what are you doing? We have to embody what I mean. I told you now, I'm on the call. Say hello. Right. So we have to embody what we want, what we want our children to embody. You can't tell them, oh, you need to read, you need to read, you need to, but they don't see you read. Right.
Mm,
Purposely, I
mm.
make sure that I keep my phone when I come home, you know, I interact with them, we read, we play, and all those kind of things. So that when I tell you that, look, you can't do this until you do this, they know. They know. It's a given rule.
Makes sense. Parenting. It's
There you go.
interesting, man.
I read somewhere that someone said that if you're parenting a child and it's easy, you're doing it wrong. I told you now.
That's a
I told
good
you
one.
that I'm on the call now.
All right, well, we're going back in.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll come and meet you. Go and be painting your Spider-Man. I'll come now. Quick, Kadiba.
Yeah, welcome back to Lagos Talks. This is Smooth 98.1. We love music and we love life and we love great conversation as well. And this morning it is great conversation talking with my special guest, very special guest this morning in the person of Othman Abdulrasheed. He is a business leadership coach as well as a behavioral analysis consultant. And we've been looking at generational communication gaps and why, children tend to struggle to talk to their parents. We'd love to get your thoughts on this particular matter. 0809 981 is the WhatsApp number. That's 0809 444 If you haven't put that on speed dial it, I wonder why you have not. Looking at you, my side eye. You can also give us a call on the studio line on 0201 4489 981 0201 4489 981. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch the live stream at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, man, welcome back. And thank you once again for joining me on a Feel Good Friday morning. Let me take a message from WhatsApp. This is a message from Ade. Ade says, parents these days are becoming lazy or distracted by over socializing and financial pressures. We end up leaving the responsibility of parenting to social media. Phones and tablets have become acceptable pacifiers.
Hmm.
Ade is Ade is speaking there. Uthman, are you in
Speaking,
agreement with that?
I'm totally in agreement because, like I said, right, when we were saying during the break, I said I read a quote that says, "If you're parenting and it's easy, then you're doing it wrong." It's hard. It's a sacrifice, right? And so we must be able to um, do the people want fast results. So your child is crying. Instead of you to connect with them, what are you doing? You say, okay, no, take my phone, go and play. Now, I saw a video day before yesterday of a chicken. The chicken was given like three different colored discs. Anytime the chicken pecked on the pink disc, the chicken will be given food. And then they started adding other discs to it, and the chicken was always looking for the pink disc. So what they now said at the end of the video was like, screen is it's not like screen is bad, but every time your child throws a tantrum and you give them screen, what then happens is that they start to see the screen as an emotional regulator. So anytime they feel emotional, they go for the screen. And then with time, that's where the addiction comes into play. So you come back from work, you've had a hectic day, right? And all you want to do is to scroll your phone. But not realizing that, look, when you come back from work by 5, between 5 and 8, it's just 3 hours. By 8:30, your children are asleep. Sacrifice that 3 hours and just spend it with them. Whatever they need to do. I remember I came back from work the other day. I was wearing suit and tie. And as I came in, my kids were outside riding bicycle. And they're like, Daddy, come and ride with us. I brought out my bicycle with my suit and tie. And I was riding around the compound with them because I understood that, look, that's what will cause that connection, right? And without that connection as toddlers and as young children, you will not have the connection as a teenager. The connection doesn't automatically appear. It starts from toddlerhood.
Mm.
So if you can't build that connection from toddlerhood, don't expect to have a connection when they're teenagers. And what's going to happen when they're teenagers is that it's going to be worse. Teenagers old have the same developmental level psychologically. So the way 2-year-olds throw tantrums is the way teenagers will throw tantrums. Crying and screaming. They won't cry and scream, but they will storm out on you. They will, because their body is going through a lot of
Attitude and all that.
Attitude, they'll give you attitude. So the best way for you to forestall that is to build that connection from now so that you have that thing to fall back on. They know that, look, I'm your friend. But now doesn't mean permissive parenting. It doesn't mean that because you want to connect with them.
What is that?
So you don't just allow them to do everything. Anything they want, everything they want. No, that's bad as well. So you must have boundaries, right? You must have boundaries. What are your clear boundaries? And once you have your boundaries, hold your boundaries. How do you hold your boundaries? You be kind and you be firm. Kind and firm means don't insult them. My friend, are you mad? Slapping them. Is that no? We don't do that. You don't hit your brother. You don't hit your brother. If you're hitting anybody, you have to go away. Go, take some time. When you're ready to play, come back. Daddy, want to watch TV? No, you don't watch TV on a school day. It's standard. There are houses that I've been to where the child just comes out from school and the child just puts on the TV. I'm like, hey. I'm like, hey, is this what's happening? Right? But if they need to have boundaries where before they can put on the TV, they ask you, can we put on the TV? Then you ask them. You have a conversation with them. Is today a school day? They say yes. Do we watch TV on the school day? No, we don't. So why are you asking me to watch TV? Tomorrow, they will ask you again. Next tomorrow, they will ask you again. But your work is to hold the boundary. You are their parent, you are not their friend. And stay firm, but kind. The problem with Nigerians culturally is that we think firmness means harshness. So if I want to be if I'm your boss and I want to be firm with you, I'll shout at you, my friend, are you stupid? You know, that kind of thing. But I can be firm and be like, no, listen, yesterday you were supposed to be on air at 9 o'clock, but you did not come at 9 o'clock. Please, what does the handbook say? So thing. So we'll met out the consequence management. It's as simple as that. I don't need to raise my voice. I don't need to ask you, do you know who I am? Simple. Just have a conversation. And it's a conversation. You did this. This is the consequence of your actions. That way they learn to hold themselves accountable. And then they know that you're not just being wicked. Because sometimes parents, due to their own personal pressure, financial pressure, so many pressure, they'll blow on something that is little. But if you learn to consequence manage based on preset agreements, so you can't beat a child for something that you haven't told the child is wrong. So a child pushes the table, you beat the child. No. If he pushes the table, you tell the child, we don't push table. The child will push it again. We don't push table. Then I tell, for every time you push table, this will happen. Even if you want to beat the child, you tell the child, anytime you push this table, I will beat you. Now, I'm not supporting that you should beat them, but if you tell them ahead of time, that means you have set the KPI for the conversation. And then if they go outside the KPI, then you can consequence manage. Right? It's hard. Honestly, trust me, it's hard. Sometimes I just want to backhand. But I understand that, look, we're trying to build emotionally resilient children because one of the things that they found in emotional resilience is that children that have a happy childhood tend to be more resilient. Right? So, and happy childhood doesn't mean just giving them everything they want. No, it's understanding that there's unconditional love and then also there are boundaries. Children thrive on boundaries. They thrive on routine.
Thriving on boundaries and routines. Okay, I like that. I like that. I like the whole concept of that. Being firm as well, not necessarily shouting and bringing the whole
Yeah,
house down.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that doesn't help anybody. I mean, it doesn't help the child. It definitely doesn't help the parents because you're just stressing
Exactly.
yourself
You're just stressing yourself for
unnecessarily at
nothing
that
unnecessary.
and everything. So, all right, interesting thoughts there, Uthman. Now, let's before we go on a quick break here, we talked about active listening. Now, I mean,
Listening.
what are some
Yeah.
practical steps that parents can actually take to become better listeners and encourage their children in turn also to be more open?
Okay. So there's a in active listening in communication. There's an acronym called LADA. So the L, I hope I remember. The L stands for look at the person. So whenever you're talking to somebody, look at the person. Most times, what parents do, their child is talking to them, daddy, 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 they're on the phone. Daddy, look at me now. You're not looking at the person, right? Right. The second thing about the ladder is to ask questions. If you ask somebody a question, you for you to be able to ask somebody a question, you have to listen attentively. You can't listen passively, right?
Right.
So put it in your mind that look, I'm going to ask for
Mm,
anything this person tells me. I'm going to rephrase it as a question and ask the person, right? D, don't interrupt. Sometimes a child comes and tells us something, we start to boil. You want to just come on, keep hold yourself. Don't interrupt, right?
mm.
The second D, don't change the subject. So a child comes and is telling you, Daddy, I was bullied in school or something like that. You now say, hey, come, have you done the dishes? That's not the time for the dishes conversation. Now we're talking about bullying. Address that first before you now later you can bring up your
Right.
own conversation, right? E stands for watch your emotion. Because sometimes think they're telling you things, you're beginning to boil. There's a rule that I have, and I think I can't remember where I read it from, but it says that if something does not is not going to matter in 5 years, then don't spend 5 minutes on it. A child come and scratches your car. In 5 years' time, you might not even be driving that car. I mean, there's a story, it's a fictitious story, but it said that a child um scratched the father's car. The father carried hammer and hammered the child's hand. The child's hand was broken. And when he finally repaired his car. And the child was like, Daddy, I'm sorry that I broke your car, but now you've repaired it. Daddy, when will my hand be repaired? And the child's hand could never be repaired,
Mm.
right? So emotions, we need to be able to manage our emotions. Emotional intelligence is very, very important, right? You have to be able to regulate. You have to know what triggers you. What are your triggers? Sometimes it's hunger plus anger. You're only angry because you're
Mm.
hungry. You
You're
come home.
hungry.
Yeah. So if you know that you have hunger issue, buy corn on your way and eat before you get home so that you're not hungry. Right? And then the last R is to be responsive. So when somebody's talking to you, you say, okay, Don't just, stare at the person, like, show
Sit down and
show
stare.
show that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's the ladder principle. And if you use that
Right.
ladder principle, you'll be able to become more in terms of active listening.
I hope we're taking notes and ready to climb the ladder. Well, not literally, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Let's take our
Yeah.
final break. When we come back in, we'll begin to look at some practical solutions and advice on how this gap can actually be bridged a whole lot better. We'll be back on the other side. This is Lagos Talks. You're listening to Smooth 98.1 on the Smooth Breakfast. Ayokunmi here. Don't go anywhere. This is a heavy conversation. It's heavy.
It's something that when Asha reached out to me and she was like, you know, because we're in transit right now. So we're in Cairo now and just for a couple of days. And I was like, this thing, like the time, I told her no. But then when she now said it was, about parenting, and I was like, wait, no, we have to have this conversation. Like this is a conversation that I'm willing to jump on. But yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, you're in Cairo now. I think Cairo is 2 hours ahead, if I'm
Two
correct.
hours ahead, yeah. So it's 11:47 now.
Because I remember years ago when my dad was still in Saudi Arabia, then we used to go on holiday. When we took Egypt Air that time, and
Yeah,
We're in
you
Cairo for
stop at.
days. There was there was even an issue connecting flights. We were there for like 5 days unplanned.
Or more. Hey,
Yeah,
I hope it wasn't December
yeah. It was
period.
no. It was summer. It was
Summer,
summer.
okay,
That
yeah,
was
better.
that was that was
Because
probably very late 90s, very early
90.
2000s. That
Okay.
time unplanned. Five
Because
days.
their December
Uh,
can be cold there. It's even colder than Europe. So imagine if you are there
oh wow.
unplanned because you didn't carry sweaters and all that. And then, like
In
you say,
no, no. That one is rough play. That one is
yeah,
rough play. But anyways, thank you for actually deciding to do it because I'm having
yeah,
fun
yeah.
and
Awesome,
learning as well.
awesome.
Key thing. Right, we're back in.
Okay, awesome.
All right, so the final moments on the Lagos Talks this Feel Good Friday morning on Smooth 98.1. Ayokunmi is talking to you right here. Alongside me is my very special guest who has been giving us a lot of insights in the person of Othman Abdulrasheed, a business leadership coach, a behavioral analysis consultant as well. And then he has been analyzing the topic for us this morning: generational communication gaps, why children tend to struggle to talk to their parents. You can still get your thoughts in on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. Maybe sneak a few calls in here and there, 0201 4489 981. If you're just tuning in, no worries. You can still get everything we talked about this morning by heading over to YouTube, where you'll find us live right now. And also, you'll find the recording to get all the value from the discussion. Smooth 981 FM Lagos is our YouTube handle. All right. So, man, let's begin to talk about solutions and practical advice on this particular topic. Now, parents and children can redefine their relationships by moving beyond the traditional parent as authority model, maybe to a more collaborative approach when they work together. This doesn't mean that parents will lose their authority, no, but they
Exactly.
allow their children to express themselves more freely. Now that being said, how can parents actually maintain their role as the caregivers and the authority figures while also allowing their children to feel more empowered in conversations, able to come out and speak as opposed to, I'm afraid of him, I'm afraid of daddy, that sort of thing.
So one of the ways that they can do that is for them to hold on. Hold on. So one of the ways that they can do that is for them to be able to, for the parents themselves, right, is for them to kind of like understand that first of all, connection is important, right? But connection does not stop respect. One of the reasons why parents don't want to connect with them is because they don't want see finish in the relationship, right? So that's why they're like, I have to be
Right.
tough, I have to be strong. But you can be firm but kind. So first of all is to connect with them as well. What are the things that they enjoy doing? Spend time. Don't just come and say, eh. I don't know if you watched. There's this movie, GT, Gran Turismo, right? If you remember the relationship the guy had
Mm.
with his dad, the boy was always playing Gran Turismo game, and the father was always like, this game, you're just wasting your time, blah 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 blah. And then somehow, there was an experiment Nissan was doing, and they called the boy to actually drive a real life race car to the point where the boy actually won a race and got a ton of money. And that's when the father now said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have believed in you." And when watching that, I'm like, this is a typical thing. You see a child is interested in something, you rubbish it, right? So one way
Mm.
to bridge that gap as a parent is take time to notice what your child is interested in. So I'll give you an example, personal
Okay.
example. I always loved talking as a child. Always. I'm like, I can talk for Africa. And every single time, everybody should tell me, you talk too much, 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 you talk too much,
You're a
right?
chatterbox.
I'm a chatterbox. And they try to make me keep quiet. But, because I'm stubborn like goat as well, I insist, you know, and that's what I'm doing now. Now, but I'm looking at it in contrast with someone like, say, Vusi. Vusi is a South African speaker, earns about $30,000 for a 90-minute keynote, right? His parents realized, I think his parents saw that he liked to talk. So they put him in Toastmasters at the age of whether 9 or so. By the time he was 14, he had won a world championship. And so he started to hone that skill from a tender age. Imagine if, let's say, for someone like me now, I had started to hone that skill long ago, where would I have been? Do you get? So a lot of times we need to understand where our children are and what they want and kind of like connect with them. But more importantly, when you're connecting with them, don't lose sight on the boundaries that you need to set. You need to be able to set boundaries and say, okay, look, yes, I'm connecting with you. Yes, I'm your friend. But if you do these things, there are going to be consequences. If you wake up in the morning and you don't make your bed, there will be a consequence. It means there's no screen for you later. So the day they wake up, they don't make their bed. Did you make your bed? No, you don't need to shout now. Okay. You don't remember what we said? You don't make your bed, no screen later. Hold that boundary that day. The next day, oh, you didn't make your bed? Oh, really? Okay, no screen later. You don't make your bed, no screen. By the third day, they will make their bed. So it's not a situation whereby they don't make their bed and you now come and shouting, I told you not to make your bed, blah, blah, blah. Just what are the consequences? So for every action that you want them to do, there has to be a consequence of not doing that action. And then you need to hold that boundary. So connect with them, hold boundaries. That way you can bridge the communication gap.
Very, very insightful thoughts there, Othman. It has been quite a session with you on the show. The way time has flown by, it actually needs to be studied because I don't understand. I really don't understand.
I
Let
know,
me take
right?
a message
No.
as we round up on the Let me take a message here. Adi says parents need to learn parental boundaries and parental balance. The two mean different things. True story there. Adi has been listening. And Adi, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with man. Before I let you go on the show this morning, for those who are listening right now, like Adi, for example, who would love to, talk to you more and get more insight, where can they, get you on social media, send you a DM, Instagram, X, where can they find you?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on Instagram at I am the Othman. IAMTHEOTHMAN. I am the Othman on all platforms, Facebook, X, Instagram. But I'm more active on Instagram. I am the Othman.
All right, absolutely. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And I'm really hoping that in the nearest future, we will bring you back on because, man, we need to carry on spitting these facts, as I said the other time.
Awesome.
All right. Have yourself a great morning and safe trip as well.
All right.
All
cheers.
right.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Lagos, thank you so much for being a part of Lagos Talks this beautiful Feel Good Friday morning. Keep it tuned. There's more Feel Good Friday music coming for you on the other side to usher you into a beautiful Friday and, of course, a great weekend as well. Keep it tuned.